very much for having me here. Thanks, Supriya. It just feels so good to be on any of these initiatives, which actually. So, where will you be, Sunil? I have no doubt at all, because in 2004 is when I started out. I would not have been able to have a room of 130 plus women. So 20 years later, if I'm here and just see the room, and even more interesting, so many women aspiring to be CEOs someday, I think we are at that inflection point for change. Usually, and there are many of you in this room who've heard me in different forum. Today's forum, my presentation will be slightly different because the rest of the day is filled with people who have passion and power and their experiences. I'm actually going to start on a rather introspective note. I want you to think, because at the end of the day, change begins from us. There are several factors out in the environment which actually may not enable us, and we know it. Many of us who are sitting in this room have experienced different forms of discrimination, and we know how to manage it. We have not, many of us have in our own ways tried to build networks, knowing fully well that it's not always easy to do that. We also know that we bear the burden of double shift, which means that for some periods of our lives, we make conscious, deliberate choices to pace our careers. Women's careers are often akin to the ebbs and flows of a river, the tides of time. Are there years where you will go slow? Will you take a break? Will you pace? Will you feel frustrated that there is an opportunity out there that you should be running after, and yet you also know that you're feeding a 3-month-old baby? Are you clear in terms of your life priorities? Of course. Do I experience guilt? Of course. Do I still navigate my career? I do. And which is why we have 130 plus women in this room. So, my conversation today is not really about what holds women back. My conversation today is to be able to say what got you here will not get you there. And therefore, how do I shed? How do I think differently? And that's the conversation. I'm going to focus, Pankajam and these days we've become Jugalbandi, no? Truly Jugalbandi, okay? So, what I'm going to do is just leave the rest of it, because she's just such a dear friend and an amazing, incredible professional. And I've had the privilege of knowing her for several years now. And so I'm going to leave all the practical how to do stuff to her, because she's done it, right? So she can talk about it. And like a true blue academic, I sat down when Supriya asked me to talk on looking at what does research tell us about women. So we have 5 references in this, and when you send out the slides, just take a look at it, because it's always good to look at these references. Why aren't there more women CEOs, and what you might not know about your women leaders? This is the title of an HBR article. So let's begin with the first one. Don't keep self-doubting. Are there leadership competencies that are exclusively to women that men don't have? Are their skills are cognitively processing we are superior? But grow up, yeah. Grow up. Okay? If there's a skill and you don't know, acquire. So don't go on this, are they perceived? Oh, am I assertive? Am I aggressive? Of course, you'll be perceived as aggressive. Grow up. Okay? So I'm just looking at research. Okay? I'm not saying anything more. So that I'm saying grow up and all is my opinion. So let's be very clear about the fact and the opinion. Second, what do we know? We don't need this room, right? To tell us we are likely to underestimate their potential. Truly, no doubt at all. Okay? And that's why I said this is a reflection, because it's about you. Just think about it. How many times have you had deep insecurity? Do you think I should apply for the job? Yes. And then do you think in the interview when they ask me in the board, do you think we will make it? What do you think I should say? Come on, yeah, grow up. Right? Your job, you work 24/7. You know your organization best. And the poor spouse, Sunil, I'm with you completely. Because then you're going and asking him, saying, do you think this makes sense? Obviously, he's going to tell you from where he's coming. Boss, if it makes sense to you, makes sense. Right? No, I need reassurance that indeed what I'm saying, I can talk about underestimate the potential forever. We tend to express loyalty to an organization. And to be honest with you, I truly believe that that is an asset. And I'm going to show you how that actually ties in. And this was such a surprise for me when I actually looked at what does this mean in terms of women's careers. Even more interesting, women feel deep ties to their workplace system. Yeah, it's interesting, right? we embed in a work system where we have our best friends are at work. Why? Because we have no time to socialize. So 18 years of my life, I've never socialized outside. I've only been to parent-teacher meetings at best. So I know all the mothers and fathers in the group. And then every other day I'm rushing back, right, home. And if I'm traveling, I just want those few hours in a hotel to put my feet up and do nothing. So where the hell am I building a professional network? So it's interesting, right? So where are my professional networks? At work. And therefore, we have far deeper ties. Now I'm going to give you a whole host of data, but it all comes together very nicely. Nearly 70% of the men report that if their manager were to leave and they have the skills and experiences needed to do the job, they would go up and ask for it. On the other hand, only 50% women say that. We know the story. In fact, women are more than twice as likely to believe that they are not equipped to do their manager's job. Significant underestimation. And I want each one of you to not look at this as a statistic to quote, but as a reality that each one of you have lived. And if you can touch your heart and say, is there any time that I have done it? That's the starting point on your reflection insight note that Rashmi spoke about. Even more. And that's why I said today's session, I'm not here. I'm here to get us to think, because reflection is the first part of a journey of self-discovery. Look at this beautiful study, Yale study, amazing study. Women consistently got higher performance ratings than men, and yet consistently seen as not having leadership potential. I want you to reflect on this. Very interesting study, Conferry. Will you move today? 60% saying, yes, I will move. 49% women saying, yeah. Even more interesting. What are the reasons that will make you move? Women say career advancement. Men say that too. But very interestingly, women say, I want another company culture that aligns with my values. And men say better pay. I told you, today is not the day to do all of that. Hey, you're great, super, go up there. But the rest of the speakers will do. My job is to basically say, if you have come this far, you jolly well aspire to go further. Okay? That's it. Very interesting. Women tend to stay in an organization when company culture is good, long-term organizational stability, encouraging environment, so comfortable that somebody else will determine whether I should become a CEO or not. Absolutely. Men tend to stay in an organization where, am I connected to the purpose and vision of the organization? Do I align with the strategy? Oh, there is another organization that aligns better. I will go and join there. And then, am I getting paid more than the other? Of course. And benefits that exceed my expectations. Oh my, you're giving me a clubhouse membership, exclusive CEO club membership. How many of you will change jobs for a CEO club membership where you're never going to go? Raise your hand now. How many times in a year did I use it? Only if you network, you'll need to use it. No. And if you can't find 3 hours for yourself in a whole week to meet others, then where you're going to network? What's the point in having that clubhouse? Yeah. So all research was, I told you, no, those extra comments are mine. And all of them opinions at this stage. One of the few times, that woman writes beautifully. Okay. For those of you who don't know her. Well, I told her, boss, go and do a study, yeah, because this is really embarrassing. Because I don't have any data from India. But so I've tried to pull together data from India, and I'll tell you. I love it. So out of the CEOs that they interviewed, what did they find? And I want you to really look at this. The median long stint for women CEOs was 23 years spent in a single company, while the median age for a male Fortune 500 CEO is 15 years. Consistently, from the first time managerial level, I knew this was happening. My own data has shown that whenever there is a program in leadership development that companies start with, more senior women come in along with more junior men. I've always intuitively seen it. But yet I had never realized its implications, because it's usually 3 to 4 years difference. But by the time you become a CEO, the 3 to 4 years across 4 levels seem to be about 10 to 12 years. So something to just think about. So, which means that it's going to take you much longer. Now, I want to frame this in multiple ways. The first framing that I want to call out is the organizational framing on what is potential and therefore how do we grow. A second one to be able to frame And I think a lot of women who are coming from breaks, you may have to coach them, because unless we get back into the workforce, in some ways, this gap will keep increasing. So, how do we navigate women's re entry into the workforce? That's a second question. But the third one that's important for all of us to ask is, how much of that gap of 10 years is also because we chose to pace career? That is not clear in this. That's not clear, right? I could have voluntarily said, I didn't have support. I'm taking off for 6 years. I'm re entering, but I've still been able to make it in 5 years. So I'm not able to understand whether this gap includes going slow. I think that is the nuanced kind of stuff we need to know for India before we can even say anything. The heartening part of it is that 71% of female CEOs in the US were promoted as long-term insiders versus only 48% of male CEOs. And that's an interesting story. So when women persisted longer, they tended to be recognized by the organization. Okay? So that's an interesting one and gives us hope. So as I look at the clock ticking away, I'm just mindful that Conferee's report seems to suggest that if you are aspiring for a CEO career, then maybe the women who navigate it through these four ways. And I don't know which one of works for you personally. One, lifelong learning. So I choose to just move across different functions, across different parts of the organization, just grow my way up. Very common in terms of men career. Very, very common. Second one is bird's eye, getting an organizational perspective. Typically, such moves are done by women who are company secretaries, who are in legal, staff roles, because they get into roles which allows them to get that kind of bird's eye view. And then they choose to kind of make those appropriate changes that are related. So you see that as a bird's eye view. The third one is innovation and growth. I think, Pankajam, I'd love to hear you on that. Constantly pushing the boundaries on innovation and growth and being able to ask some fundamental existential questions of saying, why should it be done this way? Why can't it be done differently? And being able to raise your hand and say, boss, I will do it too. If you don't have anybody, tell me, I will do it. And last but not the least is just linear career. Saying, and how does it different from lifelong learning is not versatility, but just linear. CFOs, women CFOs have done this very well. Okay? So just go. Yes, there are many of you here in this room, at least 3 that I'm aware of. So just go down and say, I'm going to be the best in this path that I'm pursuing. Okay? All of these work for women. I don't know which one will work for you, given where you are and how you look at CEO. What does research on India say? I could only find one, which is Naina Lal Kidwai's book, 30 Women in Power, Their Voices and Their Stories. So what is her summary of what she's seen on Indian women CEOs? Passion, absolutely. I mean, I don't think in any field you can succeed without passion. If you've got to be the best in a field, you've got to be passionate about. Ambition, I loved that. I loved that one where she said, verbalize your desire for designation. And Supriya, you have talked about it so many times to me that it's kind of embedded. So when I was putting this, I put it specially for you. So ambition is not necessarily bad. Boss, if I'm not ambitious, I'm not going to come here, yeah. Won't spend one Saturday morning coming here and then talking to people. Jolly well. I mean, you have to be the best in what you are. You have to be there. Humility. This is something which is interesting, right? How do you manage humility and yet be assertive? Because humility is the hallmark of leadership. Jim Collins actually in their book on Good to Great actually talk about high personal will with deep humility as the idea for a level 5 leader. So how then does one make this without cockiness, without arrogance, but yet assertive enough to be able to call out and say that there is humility? Integrity. Integrity comes more often, whether it's board research or whether CEO research for women. Integrity comes all the time in terms of going by my conscience. No shortcuts to hard work and daring to fail. One of the questions I'd also like you to reflect is, how many times have you failed? I said, gosh, what an idiot I was. If only I had to redo it again, I would do it differently. They give us some tricks of trade, and I thought I just loved it. So, which is why you have that smiley there. Okay. I really liked it. Okay. Okay. I am like totally, you can now see, right? This is the fun part because the rest of the research was like quite overwhelming. What does this say? Yeah, we know all this. We know all this. Okay. So it's just good that 30 women spoke about it. And this is what we got as distilled wisdom. I want to kind of just leave you with philanthropy and giving back. And everybody who knows me, girls Tanmatra, please, yeah, give up on me. I think we talk about paying it forward. And I hope that each one of you sitting in this room will just think of that as you walk out of this room. For the simple reason that every statistics shows that we have a very, very long way to go. One of the statistics also says that we don't have enough role models. Yes, we don't have enough. So, which means that each one of you in this room is a role model to somebody out there. Your maid, who's a working woman, wants her daughters to be like you. Your vegetable vendor wants his daughter to be like you. Never forget that. However bad it looks, a day can be hopelessly bad. You've just done the worst thing that can happen. All of that will happen in our lives. But at every point in time, remember that you are the person to whom that person who's socially so much more vulnerable is looking up to. I remember a very interesting conversation just before Republic Day. And somebody was saying, this time you saw all this gimmick of having all women only in the parade. And then, you know what? I didn't even have the energy to respond because not worth responding, even because if you can't appreciate the sensitivity of what was being demonstrated. And then I kind of walked out, and my housekeeping, Mosina, turns around and says, Madam, आपने देखा वो Republic Day parade? So I said, हाँ. अब बहुत अच्छा लगा ना। अगर मुझे पता होता कि ये आर्मी वाले लड़कियों को लेते तो मैं जाती। And I just walked away saying that every Mohsina out there needs to just see one woman somewhere in her life for her to believe that it's possible for her to make it. All the very best to this group. Thank you.